Hello and welcome, fellow dreamers of the deep. Tonight we set sail on a gentle voyage into the heart of one of Earth's greatest mysteries, the ocean, a place of wonder, darkness, silence, and secrets. Before we dive in, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from tonight? Are you near the sea, in the mountains, or tucked away in a cozy city apartment? Let me know in the comments. It's always a joy to see how far our sleepy voyages travel. Now, close your eyes if you'd like, take a deep breath, and let's explore why so much of our ocean remains unexplored, uncharted, and beautifully mysterious. Of course, here's a long, gentle expansion of Chapter 1, written in the soft, reflective style of the Sleepy Oceanographer, perfect for helping your viewers relax while they learn. When we think about Earth, the home we all share, many of us picture continents and cities, forests and deserts, mountain ranges stretching across the land. But if you were to look at our planet from far away, from the quiet stillness of space, you'd see something quite different. A blue marble wrapped in soft clouds, with shimmering light reflecting off its surface. That colour, that deep and endless blue, it's the ocean, and it covers more than 70% of everything. Most of Earth, more than 2/3, is not land, not rock, not human-built. It is water, salt water, vast and ancient, stretching from horizon to horizon. The Pacific Ocean alone is larger than all the continents combined. The Atlantic reaches from icy Arctic waters to the warm blue Caribbean, and the Indian Ocean cradles islands and coastlines where stories have floated for thousands of years. But here is something truly humbling to think about. Although the ocean dominates our planet, we've explored only a tiny fraction of it. Some say 5%, others say 7, maybe 10 on a generous day. That means there are vast areas, enormous underwater worlds, that no human has ever seen, touched, or even mapped. These are not just tiny pockets of ocean. They're entire regions larger than countries, continents, even the moon's surface, entirely unknown to us. Imagine living in a house where 7 rooms out of 10 are completely dark and locked. You hear sounds behind the walls, you feel strange breezes and see mysterious reflections in the windows. You sense that there is life in those rooms, strange life, beautiful life. But you've never stepped inside. That is our relationship with the ocean. It is, in many ways, a frontier more mysterious than outer space. We have sent people to the moon. We have satellites circling Mars and rovers crawling across its surface. But fewer humans have visited the deepest parts of the ocean than have walked on the surface of the moon. Why is that? Because the ocean, while so close to us, lapping at our feet, dancing under sunsets, splashing against the sides of boats, holds its secrets tightly. And so we live beside it, dreaming about it, drawing it on maps, giving it names, but knowing almost nothing about its depths. The ocean is not just water, it is a world, a massive, moving, living world that wraps around everything we know. It connects us, feeds us, shapes our climate and our history. Civilizations have risen and fallen beside its shores. Traders and sailors, poets and scientists have looked out over its waves and wondered what lies beneath. And still, most of it remains a mystery. This mystery, however, is not frightening. It is gentle, like a secret whispered in the night, a reminder that we don't need to know everything at once, that wonder still exists, that discovery is not finished, that the Earth we call home still has places left for us to meet, slowly, carefully, respectfully. So as you drift into rest tonight, imagine yourself not on land, but floating gently above a vast blue realm. Beneath you, unexplored valleys stretch out in silence. Strange creatures swim through lightless waters. Coral cities rise and fall in slow motion. And somewhere far below, the ocean keeps its secrets, waiting patiently, quietly, until we are ready to listen. As we begin to drift deeper into the ocean, past the surface where sunlight dances and waves roll gently like lullabies, we begin to feel a strange and invisible force wrapping around us. Pressure. Not the kind of pressure we feel in our lives when we're overwhelmed or rushed, but a physical, constant, crushing presence. The deeper we go, the heavier the water becomes, and it presses on every part of us, silently, invisibly, and with immense force. Most of us are used to the world on land, where we breathe air freely and move about with ease, but water is heavier than air, much heavier. Imagine holding a single litre of water. Not very much. It already has weight. Now imagine thousands upon thousands of those litres stacked above you, pushing down, surrounding you from every side. That's what happens when you descend into the ocean. With every metre you travel down, the weight of the ocean above increases. It builds slowly at first, and then rapidly. After just 10 metres, the pressure doubles compared to what we feel at the surface. At 100 metres, it's 10 times as strong. Now imagine being 1,000 metres down, a place of cold silence and total darkness. The pressure there is so immense, it could crush a human body like paper, not because the ocean is angry or cruel, but because it simply is. That's the nature of this vast liquid world. Down in the depths, only the hardiest creatures and the strongest machines can survive. This pressure is one of the greatest reasons why we know so little about the ocean's mysteries. It's not that we lack curiosity, we have plenty of that. It's that our bodies and most of our machines were built for the gentle comfort of the surface. The ocean's depths require technology that is incredibly strong, incredibly resilient, and incredibly expensive to build and send down safely. Submarines that explore the deep are wrapped in thick metal and engineered like underwater fortresses. They must resist the force of water that could otherwise crush steel. And even these machines can only go so far. They creep slowly, cautiously, always aware of the crushing world around them. And if something goes wrong, help is thousands of meters above, far out of reach. There is something humbling about this, to know that we, the builders of cities and towers, still struggle to reach the bottom of our own planet. We can fly through the sky, even travel to space, but diving into the abyss remains one of our greatest challenges. Down there, where no sunlight has ever reached, pressure is not an enemy. It is simply the law of that world, unseen, unfelt by those of us on land, but always there, always present. And yet, life has found a way. Deep-sea creatures, some soft, some glowing, some ghostly, live in these high-pressure realms as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Their bodies have evolved over countless generations to withstand what would destroy us. They are the true natives of the deep, fragile-looking, yet incredibly strong. They are reminders that life is more adaptable than we ever imagined. Perhaps this is part of the ocean's quiet wisdom, a lesson about limits, patience, and respect. We cannot simply rush into its depths. We must prepare. We must listen. We must build slowly, test carefully, and approach with humility. The pressure of the deep demands it. It is not something we can ignore. And so most of us will never feel this pressure directly. We will never descend into those dark waters, but we can still dream of it. Picture the vast silence, the hidden valleys, the invisible weight pressing from every side. We can imagine what it must be like to float there, still and silent, far below the surface, held gently, if firmly, in the palm of the sea. As you rest tonight, let your mind wander to that quiet place. Imagine drifting slowly downward, through layer after layer of water, the light fading, the world becoming softer, darker, and deeper. And all around you, the comforting embrace of the ocean's ancient pressure, steady, eternal, and full of secrets. As we drift deeper beneath the waves, something begins to change. Slowly, gently, almost without notice. The world around us begins to dim. The bright shimmer of sunlight at the surface, the dancing reflections that once sparkled in every direction start to fade. Colours soften, shadows lengthen, and eventually, somewhere around 200 meters down, the light begins to disappear almost entirely. This is the twilight zone of the ocean, not the place of science fiction, but a very real and peaceful realm where sunlight becomes a whisper. Here, only a faint blue glow remains, like the softest memory of daylight. Red, orange, and yellow vanish first, absorbed by the water above. Green and blue linger a bit longer. But even they surrender as we sink farther into the depths. Just a few hundred meters more and we cross a threshold. A line, invisible to the eye, but profoundly felt. Below this line, sunlight cannot reach. Not a glimmer, not a sparkle, nothing. We have entered the midnight zone, a place of eternal darkness. A world without day or night, without sunrise or sunset. It is always dark. Always. For those of us who live under the sky, it's hard to imagine such a place. Even at night we have the moon, the stars, the gentle glow of city lights, or the flicker of a candle in a quiet room. But in the deep ocean there is none of this. No natural light at all. Just blackness. Thick, soft, endless blackness. And yet, this darkness is not empty. It is alive. Creatures drift silently through this lightless world, perfectly adapted to a life in shadow. Many of them are nearly invisible, with bodies made of glass or jelly. Others glow with their own internal light, a magical phenomenon called bioluminescence. Little pulses of blue, green or red light flash in the dark like underwater stars, created by living beings in an eternal night. Some creatures use this light to lure prey, others use it to find mates or to scare off predators. There are fish with lanterns dangling from their heads, jellyfish that shimmer like slow fireworks, and tiny shrimp that squirt glowing clouds to confuse their enemies. It's a silent, glowing dance, one that plays out every day in total darkness, far from human eyes. We often think of darkness as something empty, frightening, or lonely, but in the deep ocean it is something sacred, a blanket of calm, a world unhurried by time. Here there are no rushing crowds, no flashing screens, no ticking clocks, just slow currents, drifting life, and silence. So much silence. In this place, human technology struggles. Our cameras need light to see, our robots must carry their own lamps, casting narrow beams into the black. But even those lights can disturb the delicate rhythms of the deep. Down here, darkness is not just a lack of light. It is a way of life, a habitat, a comfort. And so, most of this realm remains unseen. Not because we don't care, but because we simply cannot see without changing it, without breaking the spell. The creatures of the deep live in a world that has never known the sun. Their eyes, if they have them, are strange and specialized. Some are enormous, able to catch the faintest glimmer of another's bioluminescence. Others are blind, navigating by touch, vibration, or instinct. This eternal night is not frightening. It is quiet, peaceful, and full of mystery. A place where life has adapted not to light, but to the absence of it. Where every movement is slow, deliberate, and graceful. Where beauty glows from within. Imagine yourself floating there now, far beneath the surface, wrapped in total darkness, listening only to the gentle sound of your own breath and the slow rhythm of the sea. You cannot see the bottom, you cannot see the top, but you are not afraid. You are cradled by the deep, surrounded by a quiet world that lives without the sun, that flourishes in shadow, and that welcomes you, just as you are. As you rest tonight, let that darkness hold you. Let it soothe you. Let it remind you that there is beauty even where there is no light, that sometimes what we cannot see is the most mysterious and the most magical of all. Beneath the surface of the ocean, far from the sunlit shallows and the coral gardens we know so well, there exists a world so strange, so quiet, and so unlike our own that it feels almost like stepping into a dream. This is the realm of the deep sea, a place so alien, so mysterious, that the creatures who live here might as well have come from another planet. In fact, when scientists try to imagine what life might look like on distant moons like Europa or Enceladus, they often look to the deep ocean first. Because here, in the cold and crushing dark, life has taken on forms that defy expectation and ignite the imagination. Picture this. You're drifting slowly through the pitch-black waters of the midnight zone, your small submarine gliding silently through the stillness. Suddenly, out of the darkness, a soft blue glow pulses in the water like a heartbeat, and then another and another. A gentle swarm of living lights appears around you, creatures that shine with their own radiance, painting the dark water with halos of bioluminescence. It is like floating among stars that drift, breathe, and sometimes even blink. These glowing beings are not rare in the deep sea. They are everywhere. In fact, scientists believe that the majority of deep-sea animals produce their own light. Each species does it differently, with different colours, patterns, and purposes. Some use their light to communicate, others to camouflage themselves, confusing predators, and some use it to hunt, attracting prey with a luminous trick of the eye. One of the most famous residents of the deep is the anglerfish. With a wide, toothy mouth and skin like wrinkled leather, it might not win any beauty contests, but it is a marvel of evolution. On its head it carries a long, thin stalk that ends in a tiny glowing orb, like a lantern in the night. The anglerfish uses this glowing lure to attract smaller fish, who swim too close and vanish in a single snap of its jaws. This clever trick allows the anglerfish to survive in a world where food is rare and patience is a virtue. But the anglerfish is just one character in this vast underwater play. There are vampire squids with webbed arms and eyes like rubies, comb jellies that shimmer in shifting rainbows, and deep-sea hatchetfish, with bodies so thin they're nearly invisible when viewed from the front. Some fish have upward-facing eyes on the tops of their heads, always watching for the faintest shadow of movement above. Others have long, flowing fins like ghostly ribbons, drifting gently on deep currents like underwater dancers. And then there are the glass creatures, shrimp, squid, and even fish whose bodies are so transparent you can see right through them. No bones, no scales, no armour, just delicate forms gliding silently through the black water, as fragile and beautiful as blown glass. Many of these animals live in silence. No songs, no growls, no cries. But some do make sound, in clicks, rumbles, and low pulses that can travel for miles. Sound travels much farther in water than it does in air, and in the deep sea where light cannot guide you, vibrations and echoes become the language of survival. It's worth pausing for a moment to think about how little we've seen of this world. Every time a deep-sea expedition is launched, scientists discover new species, creatures that no human has ever laid eyes on before. Life forms so unusual that they often don't fit into any known category. Some glow like living jewels, others look like sea serpents, folded ribbons, or even floating blobs. and every one of them is part of an intricate and ancient web of life, surviving in a place where pressure is immense, food is scarce, and sunlight is just a legend passed down by currents. Why do they look so strange? Why so alien? Perhaps because evolution, when left undisturbed for millions of years, finds its own path. Free from the rules of the surface world, life in the deep sea grows according to different rhythms, different needs, and different dreams. And perhaps that's why these creatures stir something so deep in our imagination. They're a reminder that Earth still holds mystery, that not everything has been named or mapped or measured, that somewhere, even now, a strange glowing fish may be swimming past a hydrothermal vent, unaware that its very existence inspires awe in the hearts of those above. So tonight, as you begin to rest, picture these curious travellers of the deep. Let your thoughts drift with the glowing jellyfish, pulse with the rhythm of bioluminescent squid, and float beside the transparent fish as they glide silently through the Black Sea. You are safe, you are still, and somewhere far beneath you, the most magical creatures on earth are dreaming too. Beneath the waves, where light fades into shadow and the pressure grows heavy and constant, lies a world hidden from human eyes. Not just a world of strange creatures, but a world of epic landscapes. The ocean floor is not flat, not smooth, not empty. It is vast, rugged, and filled with wonders that rival anything found on land. There are mountains taller than Everest, canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon, and volcanoes that breathe fire into the sea. These are the secret structures of the earth, hidden beneath the blanket of the ocean, silent and unseen. If we could drain the oceans like water from a giant bowl, we would be stunned by what we'd find. Towering ridges stretch across the seafloor for thousands of miles, enormous underwater mountain ranges known as mid-ocean ridges. The longest of them, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, runs like a spine down the centre of the Atlantic Ocean. It is longer than any mountain range on land, yet few people even know it exists. Along this ridge, the Earth is slowly pulling apart, creating new seafloor drop by drop, rock by rock. It is one of the places where our planet is still growing, still shifting, still alive. Imagine floating above it, an endless, jagged range of peaks and valleys, surrounded by inky darkness, with hot plumes of mineral-rich water rising from vents in the rocks. These hydrothermal vents, often called black smokers, are like deep-sea chimneys, spewing clouds of heated water into the cold ocean around them. They look almost like underwater bonfires, though they give no light, only warmth and chemistry. And around them, life. Strange, thriving, improbable life. Worms with no mouths or stomachs, clams the size of dinner plates, tiny crabs scuttling across mineral towers, all surviving not on sunlight, but on the energy of the earth itself. Then there are the trenches, long, narrow scars in the seafloor that plunge into the very crust of the planet. The deepest of them all is the Mariana Trench in the Western Pacific, home to the Challenger Deep, nearly 11,000 meters below the surface. That's deeper than a commercial jet flies above the Earth. If you dropped Mount Everest into the trench, its peak would still be over a mile beneath the surface. It is the deepest place in the ocean. A cold, dark, crushing world that has only been visited by a handful of human-made vehicles. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the bottom of this trench, and yet, even here, there is life. Tiny amphipods, small shrimp-like creatures, swim and feed in the gloom. Microbes live inside the rocks. Some scientists believe there may even be undiscovered forms of life, adapted to pressures and conditions we can barely understand. Down in the trench, time feels slow. Movements are rare. Silence is absolute. It is a realm where the earth folds in on itself. quietly, constantly, reshaping the crust like a potter with clay. There are also seamounts, underwater mountains that rise from the seafloor but never break the surface. Some are ancient volcanoes, long dormant, now home to coral forests and deep-sea fish. Others still bubble and smoke, their heat attracting life in the cold deep. These seamounts are like hidden islands beneath the waves, untouched, unexplored, and teeming with unique ecosystems. Many of them have never been mapped. Some were only discovered by accident, when a ship's sonar caught a strange bump in the depth. Even today we're still discovering new ones, mountains that have existed for millions of years, waiting patiently for someone to notice them. And let us not forget the underwater plains, vast stretches of deep sea floor, covered in fine sediments, and the gentle marks of slow-moving currents. These plains may seem empty at first, but look closely and you'll find trails of starfish, burrowing worms and delicate sea cucumbers leaving ribbon-like paths behind them. These are quiet places, peaceful places, where life moves at the speed of thought, slowly, carefully, content to exist without spectacle. The geography of the deep ocean is not just dramatic, it is foundational. It shapes currents, stores heat, and provides habitats for countless species. It influences the movement of tectonic plates, the creation of new land, and even the chemistry of our atmosphere. And yet, we rarely think about it. It lies out of sight, out of reach, beneath miles of water. But it is there, forming the very bones of our planet. It humbles us to realize how little we know. Despite all our technology, most of the seafloor remains unmapped in high resolution. There are underwater caves we've never entered, volcanic ridges we've never measured, trench walls we've never photographed. We live on a planet where entire mountain ranges are still nameless because they are hidden by the sea. And perhaps that's part of the magic. As you drift into sleep tonight, imagine yourself floating slowly above one of these deep, silent landscapes. You're not in a rush. You have all the time in the world. You drift over towering peaks, down into narrow valleys, past slow-rising bubbles from hydrothermal vents. Everything is quiet. Everything is calm. The weight of the world is above you, and the mysteries of the earth are below. There are no signs, no maps, no names, just the gentle, endless geography of the sea, holding its secrets like a lullaby in the deep. The ocean, though it often appears calm and still from the surface, is never truly at rest. Beneath the gentle waves and beyond the blue horizon, it is always moving, not in chaos, but in rhythm. It breathes in its own way, slowly and steadily, like a great living organism. These movements may be invisible to the eye, but they shape everything, from the path of drifting plankton to the pattern of entire weather systems. At the surface, wind stirs the topmost layers, creating ripples and waves that stretch across the sea like soft sighs. Some waves are small and playful, others large and powerful, but they're only the beginning. Beneath the waves, deeper currents flow like underwater rivers, weaving through the ocean's layers, carrying warmth, nutrients, and life itself from one part of the world to another. These currents, some slow, some swift, move in patterns shaped by temperature, salt, and the rotation of the earth. Warm water from the equator travels north, cooling as it goes, before sinking and returning south in a never-ending loop known as the thermohaline circulation. It's often called the global conveyor belt, and it connects all the world's oceans into one great moving system. Without it, climates would shift, sea life would suffer, and the balance of the earth would change. But the ocean's movement is not just horizontal, it breathes vertically too. In certain places, deep water rises from below, bringing with it nutrients that have settled on the sea floor. This process, called upwelling, nourishes vast blooms of plankton, tiny, floating organisms that feed everything from the smallest fish to the largest whales. And when these creatures die, they drift down again, returning their nutrients to the deep, continuing the cycle. It's a quiet rhythm repeated endlessly over thousands, even millions of years. Yet this constant motion presents a challenge for those who seek to study the ocean. Imagine trying to place a delicate instrument on the seafloor, a camera or a sensor or a small robot. The ocean will not hold still for us. Currents tug and twist, waves nudge and rock. Even in the deep, where movement is slower, the ocean never truly stops. Anchoring equipment becomes a delicate dance between engineering and nature. And sometimes the movement is dramatic. Storms churn the water, sending waves crashing across coastlines and stirring the depths. Earthquakes beneath the sea floor send pulses through the water, causing tsunamis that race across entire oceans. Landslides and volcanic eruptions can suddenly reshape the sea floor, creating entirely new landscapes in a matter of hours. These moments remind us that the ocean is not passive. It is alive, in motion, with a power that humbles and inspires. But most of the time, the movement of the sea is gentle. So gentle, in fact, that we forget it's even happening. A drifting jellyfish may travel hundreds of miles without ever knowing it. A message in a bottle might circle the globe before washing ashore decades later. The ocean holds time differently. It carries things, not in a hurry, but in its own slow, circling way. And even the creatures of the deep move with this rhythm. Some migrate up and down each day in what scientists call the DEAL, vertical migration, the largest animal migration on Earth, happening every single night. Tiny creatures rise from the deep to feed near the surface under cover of darkness, then sink back down before dawn. Billions of them, every day, every night, like the slow heartbeat of the sea. When we look at the ocean from a boat, a beach, or an airplane window, it seems like a sheet of endless water. But that image is only the surface. Beneath, the ocean is a world of movement, a layered ballet of currents, eddies, drifts, and flows. It is always shifting, always pulsing, always alive. To study the ocean, to understand it, is to learn its rhythms. Scientists must release floating devices that ride the currents, or send down robots that can adjust to the ever-moving world around them. Even sonar, which maps the seafloor with sound, can be distorted by the temperature and movement of the water. There is no stillness here, and that's what makes the ocean both beautiful and elusive. As you drift off to sleep tonight, imagine yourself gently swaying with the movement of the sea. You're weightless, carried by an invisible current that flows around the world. You move without effort, without thought. The water rocks you like a cradle, back and forth, no hurry, no resistance, just you, and the endless soothing rhythm of the ocean. It's comforting to know that while the world above can feel chaotic and uncertain, the ocean below continues its dance. Slow, steady, timeless, always moving, always alive. Always whispering its secrets through the currents, one soft ripple at a time. Beneath the vast surface of the sea lies a realm that keeps many secrets, not just of nature, but of history. The ocean is not only a habitat for life, it is also a keeper of stories, a resting place for the lost, a silent guardian of ancient memories swallowed by time. Over thousands of years, ships have sailed across its waves, carried by wind and purpose, ambition and desperation. And many of those ships, some loaded with gold, others with passengers, dreams or cargo, never returned. They now rest quietly on the ocean floor, scattered across every sea like forgotten pages of an old book. Each wreck, whether wooden and fragile or iron and rusting, tells a story, not in words, but in silence, and the ocean keeps them all. Some were sunk in storms, torn apart by nature's fury. Others met more mysterious fates, vanishing without a trace, with no distress calls, no survivors, just questions. In the age of sail, ships could disappear into fog or tempest and be lost forever. No satellites, no GPS, only the stars, the compass, and the strength of the hull. If anything went wrong, the sea would take them. There are an estimated 3 million shipwrecks scattered across the world's oceans, some ancient, from the days of wooden triremes and Roman cargo vessels, others more recent, iron-hulled steamships, military submarines, and even modern yachts. Many remain undiscovered, buried beneath layers of sand, coral, and sediment, hidden in the folds and trenches of the seafloor. Some are so deep that even with today's technology, we may never reach them. But sometimes we do. Every now and then, an expedition will uncover the remains of a lost vessel, a bell still engraved with a ship's name, a porcelain cup lying untouched for centuries, a boot, a rope, a brass compass, frozen in time. When the wreck of the Titanic was finally found in 1985, resting more than 2 miles beneath the surface, it brought with it a wave of emotions. Awe, grief, fascination. It reminded us that the ocean, for all its beauty, can also be a place of loss, and yet the sea does not mourn or celebrate. It simply keeps. It holds what it is given. It transforms human tragedy into quiet monuments, shrouded in coral and life. Over time, these wrecks become part of the ecosystem. Fish dart between beams that once held sails. Sea anemones grow from rusted bolts. Octopuses hide inside portholes. Even the sunken remains of airplanes, tanks, and cities, yes, entire cities, can become artificial reefs, buzzing with marine activity. What was once destruction becomes habitat. What was once an ending becomes quietly a beginning. But it's not only ships that lie beneath the sea. There are myths of lost civilizations, entire worlds swallowed by the ocean. The most famous is Atlantis, the legendary island that, according to Plato, vanished beneath the waves in a single day and night. While many believe it to be only a story, there are real places where the ocean has taken back the land. In the Mediterranean you can find ruins of temples and villas beneath the water, sunken by earthquakes and rising seas. In Japan, off the coast of Yonaguni, mysterious stone structures lie submerged, their origin still debated. Were they carved by human hands or shaped by nature? No one can say for certain. And then there are the drowned towns of more recent history, villages flooded by dams, coastal communities overtaken by erosion, islands slowly sinking beneath rising seas. In some places, you can still see rooftops, fences, the bones of buildings, all sleeping beneath the waves, slowly becoming one with the ocean's rhythm. The ocean does not forget. It remembers, not in words, but in silence, in the shifting sand that covers a fallen anchor, in the coral that grows around a forgotten mast, in the quiet pulse of water through a rusted hull. It holds these stories without judgment, without agenda. It simply bears witness, like a patient observer watching history drift by. Perhaps that is why we feel such reverence when we dive to visit a wreck. We are not just exploring metal and wood, we're entering a space where time stands still, where the past has been preserved, gently, in salt water and silence. And still, so much lies undiscovered. Every year new wrecks are found, and even more remain hidden, untouched. They could be just a few hundred feet below the waves, or thousands of meters deep, waiting in the cold, dark stillness. Waiting not to be claimed, but simply acknowledged, witnessed, remembered. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine yourself floating slowly through this underwater world of memory. Around you are broken masts, quiet decks, and stairways leading nowhere. But there is no fear here, only peace. The sea is calm, the past is asleep. The ocean hums softly as it wraps each lost story in a blanket of blue. You're a guest here, a dreamer among shadows, and the ocean, ever gentle, carries these stories, not to frighten us, but to remind us that all things return, that even in loss there is beauty, even in silence there is meaning, and even in the depths there is always something waiting to be found. Far below the ocean's surface, in places so deep that sunlight has never touched them, lies one of the most extraordinary and unexpected discoveries in all of science. It is a place of extremes, of darkness, pressure and heat, and yet somehow a place bursting with life. It seems impossible, and yet it's real. Here, in the inky blackness of the deep sea, boiling water spews from cracks in the Earth's crust in great shimmering clouds. These are hydrothermal vents, deep-sea chimneys rising from the ocean floor, and around them, life flourishes in defiance of everything we once believed. Once upon a time, scientists thought all life on Earth depended on sunlight. Plants captured it, animals ate the plants, and the food chain went on from there. Even in the ocean, it was assumed that life near the surface fed on sunlight, either directly or indirectly, and that the deep, dark parts of the sea were barren and lifeless. But in 1977, something extraordinary was discovered. A team of researchers, exploring the ocean floor near the Galapagos Islands with a deep-diving submersible, came across towering black vents, gushing, scalding, mineral-rich water, and around them, entire communities of living things, giant tube worms, white crabs, blind shrimp, and strange clams the size of dinner plates. The water was near freezing, only a few meters away, but right next to these boiling vents, life was not just surviving, it was thriving. The tube worms in particular were unlike anything scientists had ever seen. Some were over 6 feet tall, with bright red plumes and no mouths, no stomachs, and no digestive systems at all. How could something live without eating in the usual way? The answer turned science on its head: chemosynthesis. Unlike photosynthesis, which relies on sunlight, chemosynthesis is a process where bacteria turn chemicals, like hydrogen sulfide, into energy. These bacteria live inside the bodies of tube worms and other vent creatures, forming a perfect partnership. The bacteria get a safe place to live, and in return they feed their hosts by transforming the chemicals from the vents into nourishment. It's a completely different kind of ecosystem, one that begins not with the sun but with the Earth itself. The water that emerges from hydrothermal vents can reach temperatures of 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead, but because of the extreme pressure at these depths, it doesn't boil the way it would on the surface. It just flows, rich with metals and minerals mixing with the cold seawater and creating chemical gradients that these microbes have learned to use. It's as if the planet is exhaling through cracks in the sea floor, and life has learned to breathe it in. Around the vents, everything feels otherworldly. There are towering mineral spires made of shimmering black or white material, called black smokers or white smokers, depending on the minerals they release. These chimneys grow slowly as mineral-rich water cools and deposits metals like iron, copper, and zinc. Some vents form tall, jagged columns that look like underwater castles. Others form broad fields, where hot water seeps gently through the cracks in the Earth's crust. Everywhere there is life, not the colourful coral reefs of shallow waters, but pale, ghost-like creatures perfectly adapted to this high-pressure, no-light, high-temperature world. Some shrimp have sensors on their backs instead of eyes. able to detect the faint heat of a vent. Others have symbiotic relationships with chemosynthetic bacteria, carrying them on their shells or inside their bodies. There are snails with iron-plated scales, small fish that hover near the vents, and gelatinous creatures that drift silently through the chemical haze. These communities are delicate, complex, and unlike any other ecosystems on Earth, and yet they are not rare. Hydrothermal vents have been found along the mid-ocean ridges that stretch around the globe, forming a vast hidden web of life deep beneath the sea. Each vent field is isolated, yet the organisms living there often share striking similarities. As if the ocean has its own deep language, passed between vents by drifting larvae and ancient genes. And still, we know so little. Many vents are yet to be discovered. Others are difficult to study because of their depth, remoteness, and the delicate nature of the environment. Some vents may only last for a few decades before cooling or collapsing, while others may bubble for centuries, slowly building their mineral towers like underwater monuments to resilience. There is even the tantalizing possibility that these vent ecosystems resemble the earliest life on Earth. Before there was light, before there was land, before there was air to breathe, perhaps life began in a place like this, deep beneath the surface, feeding on heat and chemistry in the stillness of the young ocean. If life could begin here, it could perhaps exist in similar conditions on other worlds, beneath the ice of Europa, or in the hidden oceans of Enceladus. The vents of our own planet may be windows into something far greater than we ever imagined. As you drift into rest tonight, picture yourself floating near one of these hydrothermal vents. The water around you is dark but not empty. Glowing microbes dance in the haze. Giant tube worms sway gently in the current. Hot plumes of water rise like smoke from the chimneys, warming the surrounding cold. It is silent, but not lifeless. You are surrounded by life, ancient, quiet, patient life, living not by the sun's grace, but by the deep breath of the earth itself. Here, in the darkest part of the ocean, life glows, life adapts, life thrives. And in that there is a quiet kind of hope, that no matter how dark the surroundings, no matter how heavy the pressure, or how unfamiliar the conditions, life will find a way, always. For centuries, the ocean has captivated us with its beauty, its power, and its mystery. We have sailed across it, fished its waters, sung songs about it, and painted its waves. And yet, for all the time we have spent by its shores, gazing out across the endless blue, the truth is this: our understanding of the ocean, especially its deepest places, is still only just beginning. Part of the reason lies in the limits of technology. Exploring the ocean is one of the most difficult challenges we face as a species. Unlike space, which may seem more distant and foreign, the ocean surrounds us. It's right here, and yet going down, truly down, into the deep, cold, crushing darkness is far harder than it seems. The immense pressure, the freezing temperatures, and the lack of light make it a hostile world. To venture there, we need special tools, and building those tools has taken time. For most of history, our understanding of the ocean floor was shaped by little more than guesswork and rope. Sailors would tie a heavy weight to a long rope and lower it into the sea to sound the depth. It was a slow, uncertain method, and it told us almost nothing about what lay below. Even into the 20th century, maps of the ocean floor were incomplete, wide blank spaces filled with little more than artistic guesses. It wasn't until the invention of sonar that we began to truly see beneath the waves. By sending sound waves into the deep and measuring how long they took to bounce back, we could slowly begin to sketch the hidden world below. Submarines helped too, gliding through the depths, giving us glimpses of ridges, trenches, and strange creatures. But these technologies were still limited. They were expensive, hard to operate, and often fragile in the face of the ocean's overwhelming forces. Today, we are finally beginning to catch up. Tiny robots, known as autonomous underwater vehicles or AUVs, can now dive to the deepest parts of the ocean without human pilots. These robots are like deep-sea explorers, drifting through the darkness, mapping the terrain, collecting data, taking photos, all while withstanding pressures that would crush most machines. They glide silently through the abyss, like mechanical fish, going where no person could safely follow. We also use satellites, floating far above in space, to help us understand the ocean below. While they cannot see beneath the surface directly, they can measure tiny changes in sea level that reveal underwater features. A slight bulge on the ocean's surface might mean there's a mountain below. A subtle dip might hint at a trench. These tiny clues help us fill in the blanks, bit by bit. But despite all this, most of the ocean remains unmapped in high resolution. Most of the creatures that live in the deep sea are still unknown to science, and many of the chemical and geological processes happening below are still a mystery. Why? Because technology has only just begun to be good enough and widely available enough to let us begin this great journey of discovery. Deep-sea exploration is not like flipping on a light switch. It's more like lighting a single candle in a vast dark cathedral. With every expedition, we reveal a little more. A new species here, a new vent field there, a newly discovered mountain, or a sunken ship we never knew existed. These moments are precious, and they come slowly. And with each discovery we are reminded of how much we still don't know. We used to think that the bottom of the ocean was flat. Now we know it's full of dramatic landscapes, canyons, volcanoes, ridges and valleys. We once believed the deep sea was lifeless. Now we know it hosts some of the most bizarre and beautiful creatures on Earth. We thought nothing could survive near boiling vents or in the crushing blackness of the Hadal zone, and yet life thrives there in forms we never imagined. And so, technology is catching up. We're building better cameras that can see in the dark, stronger materials that can withstand the pressure, smarter robots that can explore independently, artificial intelligence that can help us analyze vast amounts of data, spotting patterns and surprises we might miss, and little by little we are pulling back the curtain on the deep. But the ocean is vast, larger than all the continents combined, and the deeper we go, the more we realize how much remains to be done. Each answer brings new questions. Each discovery hints at more waiting just beyond reach. This, in a way, is the heart of the ocean's mystery. It is not just that it is far away or difficult to reach. It is that it is always moving, always changing, always deeper than we thought. And the technology we use to explore it is not just a tool. It is a companion in our quest to understand the Earth itself. As you drift into sleep, imagine one of these tiny underwater robots floating quietly through the darkness. Its lights cut through the black like a soft torch, revealing coral towers, strange fish, and forests of brittle stars gently swaying in the deep. It moves slowly, carefully, recording everything. Every detail matters. Every discovery adds a piece to the puzzle. And above it the ocean continues, layer after layer stretching upward toward the surface, where waves crash and clouds form and sunlight dances. The robot does not hurry. It does not need to. The ocean has been here for billions of years, and it will wait patiently as we learn its language, one soft signal at a time. In this stillness, in this slow unfolding of knowledge, there is something deeply soothing. We do not need to know everything all at once. The ocean reminds us that mystery is not something to fear, but something to cherish. That wonder has no expiration, that the unknown is still alive in our world, vast, blue, and quietly waiting to be understood. There is something about the unknown that stirs a deep part of the human spirit. For some, it brings restlessness, a desire to measure, to map, to categorize and control. But for others, the unknown brings peace. It reminds us that not everything must be solved, not everything must be touched. Some mysteries are meant to remain mysteries, not because we are incapable of solving them, but because in their quiet, unanswered beauty they give something back to us, a sense of scale, a sense of humility, a sense of awe. The ocean, more than anything else on earth, gives us that feeling. Yes, we could speak endlessly about the ocean's vastness, its strange creatures, its dramatic landscapes, and the technology we use to explore it. We could list all the reasons why it's still so unknown. The darkness, the pressure, the movement, the sheer size of it all. But beyond all of that, there is another reason the ocean remains a mystery, because it chooses to be, and because we, in our hearts, are perhaps not quite ready to fully understand it. The ocean doesn't need to explain itself. It doesn't cry out for attention. It simply exists, breathing in slow waves, speaking in silence. Its mystery is not a puzzle to be solved, but a presence to be felt, like the wind on your face or the stars overhead. The more we learn about the ocean, the more we realize how much it still guards. And in that realization, we begin to understand something deeply spiritual, that mystery itself is a kind of wisdom. Not knowing everything allows us to wonder. It allows us to imagine. It allows us to dream. The mystery of the ocean brings balance to a world that often moves too fast, that expects instant answers, constant information, and clear definitions. In the depths, there are no notifications, no clocks, no deadlines. Only the slow unfolding of life, shaped over millennia, untouched by our business. Creatures glow and drift. Mountains rise and erode. Currents meander through valleys that no human eye has ever seen. And yet, the ocean continues, unconcerned with being known, content simply to be. In a way, the ocean is the perfect mirror for the human soul, vast, deep, and layered, sometimes stormy, sometimes still, sometimes illuminated by bursts of clarity, sometimes wrapped in mystery. Just as we cannot see the bottom of the sea, we often cannot see the full depth of ourselves. And just as we need special instruments to explore the deep, we need gentleness, patience, and quiet to explore who we truly are. The ocean whispers this to us if we're willing to listen. It reminds us that it's okay not to have all the answers, that it's okay to sit with questions. That wonder is not something to outgrow, but something to carry with us, like a compass, like a star. In the heart of the sea, there is a kind of stillness that doesn't ask anything from us. It doesn't demand productivity. It doesn't measure worth. It simply invites us to float, to breathe, to be. And perhaps that is why we're drawn to the ocean again and again. We go to its shores not just for vacation but for restoration. We stand and watch the waves roll in, again and again like breaths of the earth. We listen to the surf not for information but for peace. It grounds us, it slows us down, it brings us home, not to a place but to a feeling, a memory older than memory itself. So, as we come to the end of our sleepy journey through the sea's mysteries, let's not worry about everything we don't yet know. Let's celebrate it. Let's let it be. Let's float together in the beautiful unknown, held gently by the same forces that move the tides, shape the shorelines, and carry the stars across the sky. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine yourself drifting in the open ocean. There's no land in sight, just water, soft, endless water. Above you, the stars begin to appear, scattered like gentle sparks across the velvet sky. Below you, the deep holds its secrets in silence, and around you, the water rocks you like a cradle. You are safe, you are small, and you are part of something vast and mysterious and beautiful beyond words. Let that be enough. Let the ocean's mystery carry you into peaceful sleep. Let it remind you that some things, the most important things, don't need to be solved. They only need to be felt.